Welcome. My name is Philip Ely, and on behalf of the Children, Youth, and Families at Risk Professional Development and Technical Assistance Center, I would like to thank you all for joining today's webinar. We are pleased to have Jack Alato as our presenter today. But before we begin, there are a few administrative announcements. A recording of today's webinar will be posted on the SCIFAR PDTA Center's website at scifar.org. During the presentation, we ask that you participate and join into the chat box and say anything at any point. However, if you have specific questions for our presenter, we ask that you place those in the Q&A box as depicted on the screen. After the conclusion of today's webinar, a pop-up window will open asking you to participate in a short survey. Please click to continue to complete our brief online survey and share feedback on today's presentation, as well as any suggestions for future webinar topics. And now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Jack Alato, who is a certified fundraising executive and cost-selling trainer with the Fundraising Academy. So, Jack, the floor is all yours.
Well, thank you for inviting me to come today. I'm very honored to be here. And we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is cause selling. And I'm going to invite you to come back and sign up for our Cause Selling Accelerate, which will begin in the fall. So as Philip mentioned, I am Jack Alato, and I am a certified fundraising executive. I have a master's degree from the State University of New York. And I'm very happy to be here, as I also said. So let me just tell you a little bit about our mission at National University's Fundraising Academy. We aim to help nonprofits, like the organizations you work for, increase your fundraising capacities and impact in your communities, and by extension, the entire society. When you raise more money for your causes, all boats come up, all things that are in your community that need to benefit by those nonprofits are raised. So that's really important. We go through and we present a contemporary curriculum presented by world-class nonprofit leaders and best-in-class faculty and renowned philanthropists. Now, when I say cause selling, some people are typically put off by that. But we all sell. Every single day, we are in the business of selling. We sell ourselves, we sell our ideas, we sell the things that we want, we sell our desire for cooperation and companionship, and we pretty much try to engage in anything that enables us to sell, and even the most casual conversations we engage in are about selling. So there are three fundamental truths of selling. And the first is, if you don't know your cause, then you are not going to be able to sell it, and people will resent your efforts to sell it. So the first thing we emphasize in all of the work we do at the Fundraising Academy is to know your cause. The second thing, which we think is another important truth of selling, is that if you don't believe in what you are selling, no amount of a great personality or a technique will cover that. So the second thing that we really emphasize is to believe in what you are selling, believe in your cause. And the third important thing is, if you can't sell with enthusiasm, the absence of it will be infectious. So these are the three truths that we emphasize in cause selling. So what is cause selling, and how can we be good at it? Cause selling is the process of seeking out potential donors who have a need, an interest, and a passion in the cause that you are engaged in. And secondly, we assist them to recognize and define that need that they have in themselves. Then we show them how our cause can help fulfill that need. And then finally, we inspire them to make a donation to our cause. So for example, if I'm working in ending homelessness, if I want to end homelessness in my city, I seek out potential donors who have a need to end homelessness, who have an interest in ending homelessness, and who have a passion and care for those who are homeless. Then I assist them to recognize and define that need. And sometimes we can't, our prospective donors and our prospects can't really define. We help and assist them in recognizing that. And then we help them and we show them how our cause, our organization to end homelessness helps fulfill those needs, those interests, and those passions. And then finally, once we've gone through these three other steps, we inspire them to make a gift to our organization. Our goal at the Fundraising Academy is to help all of you become a future-focused fundraiser. What do we mean by that? We mean that we want to help you become a fundraiser who can build relationships. Cause selling, the model that we present, is a relationship building fundraising model. We focus on the hopes and goals of your organization, and we help you articulate things like, here are our goals that will ensure the future of our mission for years to come. Here is how your donation will be used. Here is how you can get involved with our mission. All of those three things that I just articulated build relationships, and relationships are the cornerstone of the cause selling fundraising cycle. Our cause selling cycle is divided into three phases. And if you look at this slide in front of you, you'll notice that the ask comes way in phase 3. It's not the first thing we do. The first things we do in phase 1 are prospecting and the pre-approach. Those are the first two things that we do. Prospecting is the process of looking for or searching for prospective donors. That's what prospecting is. It's the first thing. One of the things I hear all the time in the classes that I teach and in my work in fundraising is, how do we find donors? How do we find individuals? How do we find corporations or foundations who would be interested in our cause? And we talk about this quite a bit in prospecting. So that's the first thing we do in phase 1. The second thing in phase 1 is what we call the pre-approach. So what is the pre-approach? The pre-approach is the planning and preparation done prior to even contacting those prospects we found in the first stage of phase 1. So it's the planning and preparation we do before we even meet with potential donor. The pre-approach is the mechanism for setting up that one-on-one meeting to introduce our organization, to start that process of building a relationship. During the pre-approach, what comes after the pre-approach? It leads to the approach. And the approach, it leads to need discovery. But please notice that we have not even asked for money yet, nor will we until we have done a thorough understanding of the needs of our prospects and we've approached them. Remember that we're going to spend a lot of time with our donor prospects, building the relationship, and that ask, which comes in phase 3, as I said earlier, actually takes about 10% of the time. During phase 2, this is the face-to-face time. This is the first thing that we do. We approach our prospective donors. First impressions matter, and we talk about this quite a bit in this part of phase 2. The initial seconds of a meeting with a prospective donor set the tone for the entire relationship that we want to build with that prospective donor. And when we talk about prospective donors, not only are we talking about individuals, but we're also talking about corporations and foundations. And the reason why I put them in there is because corporations and foundations are made up of people. And we have to build relationships with corporate program officers or foundation program officers in order to be successful at fundraising. So during this initial in-person contact, this is where we help you to establish a rapport and ask questions to learn more about the prospect. We do this exercise, which I love to do. It's asking open-ended questions of a prospective donor. And when we ask open-ended questions, as we like to say in cause selling, we get to learn more and more and more about them. And as we get to learn more and more about them and they about our organization and our cause, we build relationship. So this first module of phase 2 is important because it gives us an opportunity to set the tone and direction of building that relationship. During this segment of phase 1, this is where we have our first face-to-face interaction with prospective donors. And it's really one of the most important in terms of how we present ourselves and what we say when we meet with someone for the first time, because it's so important, because it's going to be the place where we either build trust or prevent a solid connection with that prospect from forming. So our goal is to start to build that relationship in this approach. During this approach, we move into need discovery. And need discovery is the heart of the process because it allows us to uncover a donor's underlying motivation, need, and priority. When we cover what needs and then we can put together a plan to help them meet those needs, priorities, and motivations. Here's where we ask the right questions and we engage in active listening techniques. This will help carry us through the cause selling interview process, from the pre-ask meeting to the solicitation and throughout the stewardship process. So we're going to help you figure out the right questions and some active listening skills to help you build that relationship. You don't ask your way into a gift, we say at the Cause Selling Academy. What you do is you listen your way into a gift. Listening is the most important thing. The fourth part of phase 2 is the presentation. And at this point, this is where you have studied your prospective donors. You've learned, discovered more about what compels them and how they could get and become engaged in our cause. Now you are ready to make your presentation. This segment details specific techniques that will allow donors to see the benefits of becoming committed supporters of your organization. It's such an important part of presentation. The right presentation will continue to build on the connection and rapport you have already begun to establish and convey to the donor that forming a partnership, and that's what giving is. It's a partnership with your organization and your donor to help them achieve one or more of their philanthropic objectives, one or more of their passions, one or more of their needs. Remember this, no one wants to be sold or pressured. Instead, they like to see the value of what is being presented and make their decision based on their own assessment of the story that you present to them. This is where you tell the story of your mission, your vision, your values. Fundraising begins with a great mission and is driven by a compelling message. And we talk about messaging. The fourth segment of phase 2 is handling objections. An objection is vastly different than a rejection. And in this segment, you will learn how donor objections are often signs of interest. I like to say to my classes that we sometimes think that our donors say no or they object to something, but really what they're doing is not saying no. Maybe they're giving us a conditional yes. And we talk about conditional yeses or conditional no's. We talk about overcoming objections. In this segment, what you'll learn how to identify the various types of objections that fundraisers like myself encounter all the time. And then we'll cover the best ways to overcome those objections. When you view objections with the right attitude, they become valuable and may help guide you towards a successful ask. We will even leave with a tool for overcoming resistance in 6 steps. We've developed a 6-step way to overcome resistance to getting a gift. In phase 3, this includes everything from asking to after the gift is received. The ask is the first segment of phase 3. Though many fundraisers dread the ask, I've met several fundraisers who I like to say do everything very well, but when it comes to the ask, here's where they have problems. Asking for the gift is merely the natural conclusion of the successful interview with a prospective donor, going through these steps. I like to say when I teach cause selling is that if you do everything right during phase 1 and phase 2, when you get to the ask, which remember is just a small part of the fundraising cycle, it's very unlikely that you are going to get a no. In this segment, you will learn how to face the close with confidence. As we discuss proper attitudes about closing, and closing a gift is what I'm talking about here, signals that reveal a prospect's readiness to give, and they do give off lots of signals during the course of our relationship building, and specific techniques to use during the ask. The only way to receive more gifts for your organization is to ask for more gifts. The last part of phase 3, the last segment is stewardship. And stewardship happens after the gift is received. So stewardship is that place where we thank, we recognize, and we tell donors about the impact that their gift has made for our organization. The way you follow up with donors is also important during stewardship, or perhaps even more important than the gift itself, because during this phase is where we want that donor to come back to you and renew their gift the next time you ask. Remember, you've probably seen this, the Association of Fundraising Professionals says that the donor retention rate happens at below 50%. That means that donors give the first year, only 50% of them come back and give the second year. Why is that so horrible, that statistic so bad? We think that it's because of a failure in stewardship. Here is where we hope to bring up that donor retention rate. So let's say you owned a local restaurant. I always like to use this example. Would you expect only half the people who came to your restaurant to ever return? Let's hope not. One of the most successful retail outlets in the United States is Nordstrom. And the reason why they're so successful is because they practice customer-centric selling. What we're talking about here is donor-centric selling. In fact, the reason why restaurants fail within 5 years is because their customers don't come back. That's not a statistic that Nordstrom follows. They want their customers to keep coming back, and we want our donors to keep coming back as well. So as I'm saying here, the donor erosion rates don't stop at 50%. In fact, a staggering 90% of donors disappear within 5 renewal campaigns. Where are these donors going? The problem is an epidemic that is plaguing the nonprofit landscape and nonprofit organizations. People are giving and then seeking, but not finding satisfaction, and then moving on to another cause. By the way, if you have any questions, please be sure to put them in that Q&A box. And Philip, feel free to interrupt me at any point. If anybody has a question or a comment, I'd like to hear from you guys. That would be great. So passion isn't enough. Of course, it's not really. If passion was all you needed, then it would be very simple for us. We'd be very successful at our job, because I'm sure that most of us, all of you, are very passionate about your cause. If this was as simple as telling our prospective donors about our missions with passion, all of our causes would be fully funded and thriving, and they're not. We know they're not. But passion isn't enough, as I said. Both for-profit and nonprofit organization need the same thing to grow: a steady and predictable source of revenues. That's true for retail, the for-profit world, and it's also true for nonprofits like the ones that you work in. Here's where we need to set the record straight. Nonprofit is not a business model. It's a tax status. So we believe that to combine both profit and nonprofits need the same things to grow. Is it possible then to combine a more business-aligned approach with the heart and soul of nonprofit fundraising? Yes. The words business and profit are not inherently evil. The individuals who serve on your board of directors certainly don't think that for-profit is a bad word. In fact, most of them are able to greatly impact change precisely because of their success in the for-profit sector. So what we like to say at the Fundraising Academy are cause-selling professionals, which I hope you all will become a part of, are fully embracing proven business models so that the future of their mission will be realized. In other words, cause-selling professionals equal future-focused fundraisers. So at this point, I'd like to answer any questions you guys may have. Are there any questions for me? Any at all? Gosh, I'm feeling really good. Any questions? So what I would like to talk about is our upcoming cohort. And so what I'd like to say is that I've shown you the cause selling cycle, but that's not all that happens in our cohort. So just stepping back for a minute, learn from, we have a variety of instructors. I happen to be one of them who come to the cohort and teach different aspects of it, okay? It starts on October 5th, and it's 56 hours both in and out of session coursework. Now, here's the thing. You're going to get a great participant guide to help you maneuver through the cause selling cycle. And it is good. I look at it all the time. It's more than 100 pages, and it has lots of interesting things in it. The cohort is going to run from October 5th to November 7th. There are 10 sessions, and each session is 3.5 hours each. So 8 a.m. until 11:30 Hawaii time, 11 a.m. until 2:30 Pacific Daylight Time, and 2 p.m. until 5:30 Eastern Daylight Time. So here's the thing that I think is so wonderful about the Cause Selling Academy, teaching cause selling. So we're going to go through all of those topics, those 3 phases of the cause selling cycle. But we're also going to talk about other things that help you be future focused fundraisers. And some of those other topics are trends in philanthropy. What's going on in the philanthropic world? What's happening? Is crowdfunding a big thing? Is plan giving growing? What's happening in philanthropy that you should be aware of? Understanding why people give. This to me is one of the most important topics that we have. When we understand the motivations of people and why they give, then we can speak to those motivations and they will make a gift to the cause that we have. So understanding why people give, secrets to fundraising success. We also talk about major gifts, and each organization will help you define what a major gift is. Plan giving, where you get gifts. In my career, we've received bequests, plan gifts from people, anything from $20,000. These are gifts that are made when people pass to our organization, $20,000 gift to a $12 million gift. So we're going to talk about a step-by-step plan to start your organization's plan giving program. And then we're going to talk and give you some fundraising tools. One of the things that people find most interesting in the cause selling accelerate is social styles. We're going to talk about social styles, donor styles, your social style, and how you can interact more effectively with your donors based on your social style. So those are some of the things that I think you see in the Cause Selling Accelerate, and I'm happy to answer any questions or just have a general discussion about it. Anything at all, guys, please ask me.
Hey, Jack, we actually have a couple of questions. The first one is from June Mead. She asked, what suggestions do you have for sharing the successes of the program with funders?
Here's one of the things. So when she's talking about funders, is she talking about foundations? June, were you talking about foundations?
Hi, Jack, I'm asking about just generally funders.
Generally. Okay, so with individuals, I think one of the things that we like to see when you're building that relationship, and we talk about questioning during need discovery, one of the things that we ask potential donors is, how often would you like us to tell you about the impact of your gift? And they'll answer that question, Gene. They'll tell you how often. They may say, I'd like to hear once a year about the impact of your programs. Or they may say, you may say to them, would you like me to send you a letter once a month to talk about the impact of your gift? Would you like to meet with some clients who benefit from giving to our organization? Would you like to tour our program? Any of those things. So there's lots of ways that we find out. But here's the thing about cause selling. We ask donors and prospects, and that includes corporations and foundations, how often would you like to hear from us? And by what method? Do you want a letter, a phone call, an email? Do you want a text message? How would you like to hear about the impact of your gift? Hope that answers your question. With corporations and foundations, if you ask them that question, they'll tell you. Foundations may say, send me a report quarterly. Or they may send, at the end of the year, send us a report on how you spent our money. That kind of thing. And I could look at, I'm not a fundraiser yet. This is from Nancy, but I do work with various corporations and have received small annual gifts. I often struggle with the stewarding component. Can you give me some examples of effective stewarding? What a great question. And here's the thing, Nancy. Again, ask them, would they like to visit our program? let me tell you something about my career. I worked at St. Francis Medical Center in Los Angeles, and I was the corporate relations and foundations manager. And I would write a letter all the time to corporations who gave us gifts like $15,000 or $25,000. And I would give them a brief summary of the program. We had this program at St. Francis, behavioral health with juveniles. And if I got to get to that, I would go through this in this letter. On a one-page letter, I said, here's what we did. We had, 15 kids go through our program who are suffering. We had 12 homeless adolescents in our program, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the last thing I would write in every one of those letters was this, Nancy. This short letter cannot fully explain the impact of your gift on behavioral health at St. Francis Medical Center. Instead, I would like to invite you to come with me to see firsthand the work of our hospital as it relates to behavioral health. That was the last sentence I used to put in every corporate and every foundation letter. I also put it in letters to major donors. And what I was doing there is saying, come and look firsthand about the impact of your work. And many said, thanks for the letter. I appreciate the invitation, but no thanks. But many said, I want to come and see. That's a great stewardship event. Those that come. And just the fact that you invite them is very authentic. Remember those 3 things of selling? Believe in your mission. I believe so much in the work of St. Francis that I want you to come and witness firsthand our work. That's believing in the mission. Those are one of the fundamental precepts of selling. I hope that answers your question. I hope I gave you examples of that too, Nancy. Invite people to come and see if they want to. Invite them to meet with the client. One of the things I used to do also at the hospital is I used to ask, would you like to speak to, like if someone gave to women's health, I would say, hey, would you like to come and talk to Dr. Smith about what we're doing in women's health? Those would all bring them in and tell them how we're stewarding the money. I like this next question. Can you share with us one motivation that motivates donors to give besides having a shared cause? Urgency. Urgency. Look at the most successful motivations for giving. Look at what happened after 9/11. The American Red Cross received millions and millions of dollars because there was an urgent need. Look at any nonprofit that's successful. Homelessness, COVID. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Pandemic giving is, fundraising last year in 2020 was way up. Not only for health-related things, but for homelessness, all kinds of things, because people had a sense of urgency to make gifts. So urgency is one motivation. There are other motivations, shared values. When you find people who share the values of your organization, let's say it's creating sustainable community projects, they share that value, that's an important thing to do, then you're going to have a match. So another motivation is shared values. There are about 7 to 10 motivations. One of them is that somebody asked. When you have to ask for a gift, that's a motivation. If you ask some donors, why did you give to a specific cause? They say, because somebody asked me. Another motivation, I've often looked at, around the holiday, Christmas time, people dropping money into the red kettle. I don't think we did it last year because of the pandemic, but people dropping money, they knew it's the time of year when those red kettles are out. That's their motivation, okay? Any other questions about any fundraising thing? It doesn't have to be related to some of the things we talked about. Anything at all.
So Jack, one question that I would toss out, and I think it's important for the group to understand is, and now we've been talking about fundraising and really focused on dollars, but are these techniques also good when we're asking for things like transportation or space or volunteers?
Yes, all of the things that we talk about cost selling. Volunteers are donors. They're giving of their time. So yes, we would use the same techniques. We build relationship with volunteers. If we're asking for donated space, like if we need some space to do a new program in our organization, but we can't afford, renting or buying a space. Yes, we build a relationship with those people who can make that gift of space to us. Or, I know of an organization in Northern California, Oakland. It's called Lend a Hand Foundation. And what they do at the beginning of the year is they fill backpacks. Now, those of you who are parents know that you get a list of things that your teacher wants each child to bring to school. Maybe a pencil, a pen, a notebook, a ruler, an iPad, whatever it is. That's what they do to supplement. Well, Lend a Hand Foundation this past year, just a few weeks ago, they did it 6,000 backpacks for Oakland school kids. They filled them. They got volunteers to come and fill those backpacks. They got local businesses to donate like pencils. They got school supplies. They got, Office Depot and those organizations to give school supplies to fill those backpacks. Now, the organization's been around 25 years. They're not a brand new organization, but they create a sense of urgency. And one of the things they do so effectively is they talk about how embarrassing it was for a child to show up on that first day of school and not have the tools that the teacher had asked the parents to purchase. So that is a motivator. We don't want, kids who through no fault of their own, their parents are working poor, whatever, but they can't afford to buy those supplies. A backpack is not cheap, by the way. I bought a few myself in my day. They're not cheap. So there are lots of things that motivate us and corporations. It's all about, to me, the most important thing about fundraising is building a relationship. Building relationships with volunteers, donors, people who give us space, etc. What else do we have in questions? Can you tell us more about the online cost selling Accelerate on October 5th? As a matter of fact, I can, because that's probably going to be me in that first module, which is fundamentals of fundraising. We're going to start right at the beginning and we build up. We're going to build up your experience and learning about fundraising at the beginning. The other thing that I have taught in the past for Accelerate is plan giving, which is one of my favorite things. There are some things that we could do which are like almost no-brainers. One of the things each of you could do around plan giving, you could do it this afternoon, you could do it tomorrow, and here it is. You could put on your website, in your newsletters, in your annual reports, in your text messages, emails, a simple thing at the bottom. When you are writing your estate plans, please be sure to include the name of your organization in your estate plans. That is a simple no-brainer. What that tells people, it's informing them that you are interested in being included in their bequest. You're interested in them supporting you. One of the things we say in plan gift, the people who have made plan gifts to organizations I've worked for, you know what it is? It's donor loyalty. I would get a $25 gift a year for 20 years from someone who was in retirement, and then they would pass and they'd leave me $100,000 gift. And I always sought to understand why, and what it was donor loyalty. And I like to say to people in planned giving, if you have a donor who has consistently given to you for at least 5 years, that's a loyal donor. And that's someone you should be talking about being as part of their estate plans, either in their will or in their trust. Can you tell us, oh, I think I answered the last question. Any other questions?
And while you're all thinking about any other questions, just a little bit more about the online cost selling accelerant. There's a link into the chat box. All you have to do is click on that link so you can sign up for that. And again, that online course will be on Tuesdays in those times that was mentioned earlier. So it'll be on Tuesdays, and obviously the holidays will be taken into account, but it's about a 3-hour, if I'm not mistaken, Jack, about a 3-hour training each day on those Tuesdays. But it also gives you credits that you can use towards getting your CFRE. And so again, it is not just for money and dollars, but also it's important to understand a lot of these techniques when you're talking about making that ask for volunteers, or making that ask for space in somebody's gym, or space for conference rooms, or to work with your local YMCA or different organizations. So it's a great course. And I know I'll be there. So I just look forward to seeing anybody else who wants to join. Again, that link is in the chat box. If you're thinking about joining, you can just go ahead and click on that link and sign up.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned the CFRE credits. And if there's anyone interested in achieving their CFRE, I'm a CFRE ambassador for parts of California. So I put my email in there, and actually, if you have a question afterwards about the cost selling accelerator, put my email in the chat. It's last name, first name at Gmail. Happy to chat with you about CFRE. And it looks like someone's looking for that link. Philip, is that the Penn State Is that the link that you're talking about?
Correct. It's that it's basically a Qualtrics link. So it's that PennStateQualtrics.com, the JFE link.
You know what? I think it only came to host and panelists and not to the entire group.
And that would be why. Good catch.
So
so now everybody should see it.
Yeah, there you go. I made a link on it too, just saying. But any questions, any other questions? And remember, you could reach out to me at my email or reach out to me on LinkedIn, or whichever way you like. I run study groups for CFRE. So I like to help people prepare for that exam. I'm a believer in CFRE, and certainly cost selling accelerate is an awesome way to really get some in-depth training on relationship building. And I can't repeat it enough. Cost selling is a relationship building model of fundraising. And trust me, it's all about relationships, whether it's raising money or getting that donated space or backpacks or whatever it is. It's building relationships with people. Any other questions? I'm not sure what time you guys wanted to end. Good. That's a good thing, Nancy. I'm going to see you in that class, and I'll call on you now that I know your name. You know, a lot of the work in the cost selling accelerator is going to be done separately. We're going to give you forms to fill out, like around social styles, trying to determine what your social style is. You're going to do a lot of pre-work before you even get to that. Remember, I think we said on that last slide, it's about 56 hours of work. That's in class and out of class. And we have lots of things that we do. We do role playing. I mean, you don't want to just listen to boring old me for 2.5 hours. And believe me, I could not talk that long. But we're going to do some role playing around asking questions, cultivation, stewardship, etc. It's going to be fun. And then the textbook. And, you're going to get that wonderful cause selling textbook, which I don't seem to have in front of me right now, which is awesome book. And it's yours to keep. It's a resource for the rest of your career in fundraising. It really is.
Any other questions from anybody? And if we do not have any other questions, then again, I would like to thank everyone for joining today's webinar. Please don't forget to take a moment to fill out the survey that you'll see pop up at the end of this. And then also, I just wanted to also mention that in November for our next webinar, we'll have Tatiana Bustos, who will be presenting on evaluating program implementation. So we look forward to see you then. Stay tuned for more information on that. So again, thanks to Jack and the team at the Fundraising Academy for being with us today, and to all of you for being with us. Again, this webinar will be posted, the recording, at sci-fi-pdta at umn.edu, or sorry, sci-fi.org. And if you have any questions about today's webinar or any other topics about sci-fi, then email us at sci-fi-pdta at umn.edu. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you all both at the Online Cost Selling Accelerate and our next event.
Thank you.